Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. We would love for you to tell us where you are in the world by posting a comment in the chat. My name is Catherine Mattice. I'm the founder and CEO of Civility Partners. We focus on building positive, thriving work environments. And I have a superstar with me today, Miguel Joey Aviles. Joey. And Joey is recognized as 2022 LinkedIn's top voice in racial equity, which is saying a lot because there's a lot of people on LinkedIn talking about that. You're a 2021 top 15 champion of diversity by Diversity Global magazine. You have all sorts of accolades, and you're the former chief of diversity and inclusion at an 88,000 people organization. So I am just like, hi, nice to meet you. You're awesome. Love it.
Thank you so much, Catherine. I'm so happy to be with you and your audience here, and I look forward to have a heart-to-heart conversation about such an important topic, belonging in DEI efforts. So thank you for your leadership in this community, and thank you for everything you do in
Well, thank
this
you.
field.
Thank you. And I feel like we're probably kindred spirits because you have Be Happy behind you. My painting, you can probably tell I'm fairly happy as well. So so I just want to start out by getting to know you a little bit. So tell me, how did you come into the work that you do around DEI and that B that we've added to the end, belonging?
You know, Catherine, I've been in the diversity, equity, and inclusion field for over 15 years before
Wow.
DEI was sexy or at the
Yeah.
top of topics. You know, and it was in 2007. I am originally from the beautiful island of Puerto Rico,
Love it.
where I am joining you all, by the way. And I traveled to United States for the first time for an internship program. And at the time, I couldn't speak English fluently. I had like maybe three words: hi, hello, a yes, coupled with this smile. And as soon as I got off that airplane, I learned that I was a minority. And my
Mhm.
reaction was like, a minor? What? What are you talking about? I learned that I was a Hispanic, that I was a millennial, that I had an accent. Until today, I ask myself, what accent are you talking about? Because I have no accent. You know?
Right.
So, so all these labels put such a weight on me. And when I walk into that office for the first time, I
Mhm.
noticed that I was the only one. And I
Mm.
know that many of our audience members have been in that place where you are the only Black woman or the only Latino, you are the only millennial and the only. And I wonder, why in the world am I the only one here? And that's
Mhm.
how I started my career as a diversity recruiter back in 2008. So since day one, I have been focusing my expertise in helping organizations improve representation. But then along my career, I then also focus in creating workplace environments that are
Mhm.
rooted in inclusion, belonging, dignity, and respect until my last role that I had in government as the chief of diversity and inclusion at a major organization. So, Catherine, that is kind of in a nutshell part of my diversity story. Now,
Mhm.
my focus is helping leaders close the gap between crisis and
Mhm.
belonging. That's my
Mhm.
focus now, and that's what brings me to your show.
Well, I'm so happy to chat with you. And by the way, we've got people from all over the world. So thanks. I'm looking at where you're at. Thanks all for being here with us. We've got lots of people from America, the Philippines, Denmark, UK. So thank you all. And I want to say, feel free to post questions and we will get Joey's answers as we go along. So by all means, ask questions. You've got an expert here. So I feel like it wasn't until maybe 2 years or 3 years ago that we added the B. So it was D and I, then it was D and I and E, and now we've added a B for belonging. I've also heard behavior. So tell me about that. Why is that belonging piece such an important piece to be added to this conversation?
Catherine, when we belong, we come alive. When we belong, we believe. That's what I have discovered in this really hard work, because doing diversity, equity, and inclusion takes a lot of hard work. And when we have organizations with remarkable recruitment, with remarkable performance, but we don't have a sense of belonging, all our efforts miss the mark. So I have a story on belonging, and I want to take you with me, Catherine, to my first role as a senior manager in a major organization, and I was in my 30s. Okay, and as I'm walking to my interview, at the time I used to wear red glasses, like bright red glasses. And this was a very conservative organization. Catherine, what did I do? I took my glasses off, put some contact lenses, and left my red glasses on the car before walking to the interview. And I got the job. 3 months after, I still didn't have the bravery, the courage to bring my whole self to work. And for the first time, I had to ask myself, Miguel, what's going on? Why are you so afraid of bringing your whole self to work? And at that time, I read a quote from Dr. Brené Brown when she said, true belonging is the spiritual practice of believing in and belonging to yourself so deeply that you can share your most authentic self with the world and find sacredness in both being a part of something and standing alone in the wilderness. At that time when I read that, I said, hold on a minute. I need to belong to myself first. I brought my red glasses in, brought my whole self to work, and to my surprise, people loved it. I became the red glasses guy, and it was part of my branding. So belonging is that sense that you can bring your whole self to the workplace and you will be valued, respected, and celebrated. So I think that's where we are moving towards across the DEI industry.
Yeah, and I love that story because it's kind of simple in a way, just the red glasses, kind of an unassuming minor thing, but really it's your brand, it's who you are. I get the sense we're probably both very eccentric and like to have fun and be silly, and that's who you are. And that is a fantastic example of what not belonging looks like, and even not feeling comfortable to wear your bright red glasses, which I would imagine is a big part of your brand, part of how you present yourself to the world.
Absolutely, Catherine. And you know what? The red, because I'm focused in helping our clients take the necessary actions. Red is an acronym. R stands for recruitment. I believe that belonging starts in the application process, even before. So a question that we need to ask ourselves, how are we nurturing a sense of belonging right even before the application process starts? E stands for elevating, is elevate others through our mission and highlight career paths or career opportunities or career development that helps talent see themselves in the organization years to come. And lastly, demonstrate inclusion. Right at the beginning, how can we show micro inclusive behaviors as we welcome the individual to the interview, to the virtual engagement? So red, recruitment, elevate, and demonstrate inclusion right before the application process starts.
I love that. You got to put your red glasses back on for that. So can you talk to us more about that? What are some ways, give us a couple tangible tips in each of those 3 places that we can be doing if we're recruiting?
Absolutely. So I believe that we as recruiters, as managers, we don't have a lot of time to lose. Like, we are in the business in a space where we got to accelerate our awareness. And one of my top tips is do your best to find similarities with the other person, with the other individual or the applicant. Find ways to connect through core values, to connect through life experiences. And once you find that commonality, that common ground, then strive to share stories, to ask questions, and to listen deeply. But I believe a way to accelerate belonging is finding common ground through the power of storytelling. And there is a lot that we can unpack there, Catherine.
I like that. And I think as different as we all are, we're also all humans and have similar experiences around feeling ashamed of something or excited about something. And so then we can connect on that level of, well, you're not so different than I am. I like that.
Absolutely.
We have one comment. My motto and brand is aspiring to inspire, uplift, and encourage. I love that, Lysandra. The one thing I love talking about in our ERG meetings is authenticity. Love that. Love that. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And you know, Catherine, talking about authenticity and connected to the power of storytelling, sometimes we need to, not sometimes actually, I encourage you all to talk about your own failures. Talk about how you have learned. And that is a quick strategy that I teach my CEOs and executives. Hey, if you want to connect with your people, talk about how you have failed in the past, and you can find another word or learn or grow, whatever makes you feel kind of more comfortable for you to share. But talk about the things that you have done and how those things have helped you transform your leadership style. That is one strategy that you can use to build authenticity to your people.
That's a great idea, because then it makes them appear more vulnerable. And I think that's part of the problem with inclusivity and belonging types of initiatives, right? That the C-suite maybe attempts to really present themselves as a perfect united front often, and not willing to share stuff like that. And I love that. I love that. So that's obviously one way for an organization to start building an inclusive environment around, getting more comfortable around sharing failures, being vulnerable with each other. What are some of the other types of things you talk to your CEOs about doing in an organization?
To achieve inclusion, there are 2 critical things. Number 1, belonging, which we are talking about, but there's also uniqueness. That feeling of what makes you unique or different from a particular group will be valued and appreciated. So there are 3 barriers to achieve true inclusion in the workplace. And I think we need to talk about them. Number 1, exclusion, whether it's intentional, unintentional, or systemic. So it's important to talk about exclusion in the workplace and how does that shows up. And it shows up in every workplace. So talking about it and facing it is one thing. Number 2, conforming. Conforming is a big detractor of DEI initiatives because dominant cultures kind of propel the message of follow the way things are done here so you can be promoted, so you can be celebrated. And number 3, tokenism. Finding that one person and then highlighted it, trying to show a message that there is nothing wrong or nothing to improve in this workplace. So I believe that every leader, needs to be aware of exclusion, conforming, and tokenism, and have a clear strategy on how to handle each one of them.
Okay, I want to talk more about the strategy that you're suggesting, but I have a comment. I love that you said exclusion, because I've been using that word a lot lately. I say, even in some of my training proposals, when exclusive behaviors exist, and I am so shocked at the amount of shock that people, with so many sales call, people are like, what do you mean by exclusive behaviors? And I'm like, what do you mean? What do I mean by? And so while I like to say that Civility Partners is very adjacent to the DEIB world, I would never say I'm a expert in that field, but of course we're focused on creating thriving environments as well. So I talk a lot about, for example, something like gossip, or making jokes at people's expense, that kind of sarcasm that pushes the line, that those are exclusive behaviors that, even if it's a bunch of white people gossiping about another white person, it's exclusive, and it's not okay. And that kind of behavior is what then starts to open the door for more ugly stuff to start coming through. And then the organization hires a person of color, and now they're gossiping about that. And then it just goes down this path. And so I'm so glad you used that word, because I don't talk about that word enough. It doesn't have to be harassment or discrimination. It's all the subtle, under the radar, very legal behaviors that are the problem.
And all those things get connected in creating toxic cultures, which is a big problem right now. But Catherine, I know that you want to get to clear actions, things that we can do now. So when we face exclusion, it's very important to bring an approach of intentionality. If we are not intentionally including people, we are probably unintentionally excluding folks. So when we walk to the office, I want everybody to ask the question, how am I going to include my peers, my subordinates, my customers? What is it that I'm gonna do intentionally? Sometimes it can be something as simple as showing, like, good morning, good afternoon, I'm happy that you are here, welcome, I'm glad that you are with us. Just some as a micro affirmation or a micro inclusion, as simple as that, can make someone's day. So that's one quick strategy that we can use. If you're experiencing a culture of conforming within your team, just asking for dissenting opinions is one strategy. Who has a different point of view? Or I welcome other perspectives, and then intentionally asking people to bring points of views that may not be included in that particular situation. And
then responding to those ideas with, thank you, I hadn't thought about it that way. Don't say, I want to hear from you, if you're not actually going to take it.
Yes, and doing that authentically, Catherine. It takes work, it takes effort to show it authenticity in the way, hey, I'm learning something new. Thank you. I appreciate you and your points of view. It takes time and it takes effort.
It does. I wrote down, this is going to be my new quote. If you're not intentionally including people, then you are unintentionally excluding them. I love that. That's beautiful. That's so awesome. Let me see. We've got some other comments. Danny says, as a society, we used to wear a bigotry on our sleeve. Today, it's much more insidious and structural. That's what must be challenged, those unwritten rules in exclusive cultures. Indeed. Thanks, Danny, for 100%. Lysandra says, so many people, including myself, have conscious and unconscious bias. You don't realize it until a certain situation's presented or someone shares a story. So yeah, that's why it's unconscious, right? Just yesterday on Facebook, on TikTok, actually, this came across. It was a super old 80s episode from Oprah. And she had several people from diverse backgrounds really talking about the word choices that we use, and how they're inclusive. And I just thought, man, there's a reason Oprah is so famous. She was having these conversations before they were sexy, like you said, before we were even talking about them. So I love your strategies. So how do we convince, it's one thing to tell a CEO, you've got to be more intentional about inclusivity. How do we push that down through the ranks? How do you get that line manager, or the team lead to buy into something like that?
I have experienced that challenge in with different clients as well as managing DEI initiatives. And that question always comes at the front. So I believe that when one person shows inclusive behaviors, that's contagious. So we start with one people, we start with one group of leaders. Some organizations start at the top with the executives, and that tends to trickle down to the front line. So here is what I have seen work. Number one, provide the tools and the behaviors. Be clear on what is what. And when you provide clear examples and clear ways to see that become a reality, people tend to increase awareness and then follow through. But I will say that one of the top strategies that I have seen work is when we allow frontline managers to connect with people that are different from them through story sharing. That's one of the top strategies. When we create spaces where we allow people to come together and listen to each other's story. In 2020 and beyond, that strategy was put in place in many organizations across America, United States. And we have seen how the power of sitting down and listening to each other increases awareness across all sides. So the question is, how comfortable are you sharing your own story, and how comfortable are you listening to stories that are different than yours and that challenge your core beliefs?
But I feel like you can't have that kind of storytelling session unless, especially at work, unless everybody in that session is open to what you just said, just hearing things that challenge their point of view. How do you create that safe environment for people to have to do that?
Yeah, psychological safety is a big deal for all of us, and right. We know that without psychological safety, we cannot really have that story sharing, and in fact can cause sometimes even more harm than help. So right. My advice is there are 3 different levels of connection. Okay. Catherine, level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 1 is the basic type of conversations, like how are you doing? How is your project going? Start there. Start at level 1. Don't go super deep quick. And Catherine, I have this issue, and I don't know if I'm the only one, but I am a deep kind of person. Like I meet you and I want to go deep real quick. I have learned that it takes time to build trust in these type of conversations. So start at level 1 with basic questions like how are you, what's going on in your project, etc. Level 2 starts getting to what is your story? Tell me more about you. And often people ask me, Miguel, how do I know when I'm ready to go from level 1 to level 2 to level 3? Pay attention to body language. Pay attention on how much information is given, and use that as a mechanism to go to level 3, which is let's talk about our core values. Let's talk about your challenges. Let's talk about your life story. Let's talk about times where you have felt excluded. So don't do what I used to do, like go to level 3 right away. Build your way from level 1, basic questions, level 2, story related question, and level 3, challenges, barriers, lessons learned, etc.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I just see you on an airplane sitting next to someone like, so tell me your deepest, darkest secret. I'm with you. I think I tend to share my level 3. I'm pretty much like, I'm the same person all of the time. I don't have any regrets or things that I don't care if people, like, I don't have a lot of secrets, so I feel like maybe I am the opposite. So we would be good plane partners. You would ask me my darkest secret, and I would share. We have a question: in what settings would allow for this storytelling to take place? So where does it start? So and that's a great question. We're saying you got to start with level 1, and if you're the leader, maybe you start to take this on, but then you're inside the organizational context. And so how does it start? It just starts with me being aware that, hey, I'm going to start doing level 1 inquiries. Is that the start?
So great question, by the way. And it's a question that I get asked quite often. Number 1, this starts one-on-one. Think about meetings between managers or meeting between peers. Start small, sometimes one-on-one conversations, but we should not just keep storytelling at that level. Sometimes it happens at the group level where you have in team meetings, okay? But that's not enough neither. Sometimes we want to talk about and have storytelling at town halls. So the right approach is to find a mix. A mix of mechanisms and ways where storytelling occurs at the personal one-on-one level, at the team level, and at the organizational community levels. Each one of them requires a different set of approaches, a different set of guidelines, perhaps, to make it work. But it's in the mix where success resides when it comes to storytelling.
I love that. And, it's like, I feel this too as a culture consultant, it feels really grandiose. It's a big thing to change culture, and it is. However, what you're saying is we can all influence it with a very simple step of being willing to share stories and ask people about their stories and being cognizant of what level we're at with our relationship with that person. But it's like, wow, it's really kind of simple. And in the end, yes, it's a big thing, but that we can each influence it just with stories. So I love that you can bring it to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And these are simple stories, simple mechanisms. Of course, we are not naive. We understand that there are systems that take a lot of effort and strategy. So we're not ignoring that, but we are choosing to focus our efforts specifically during this conversation on quick things that anyone can do at any level to drive some kind of change. Of course, there are other systems that take a lot of intentionality, activism, effort, etc. And that's why there is a lot of work in DEI, for sure.
Yes, that's for sure. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. I love this quote, so I'll credit you. Don't worry. But I loved it. So again, if you're not intentionally including people, you're unintentionally excluding them. Thank you for that little nugget, and lots of great nuggets. I definitely will think more about stories and the stories I tell and the stories I ask people for. So tell us where people can get a hold of you if they want to talk more.
Thank you so much, Catherine. My website is migueljoeyaviles.com, and you can find all my information there about my keynote speaking, coaching, etc. And of course, LinkedIn is my number one social media platform. So connect with me, send me a note, and share some love with us.
I love it. Be happy, everyone. And Thanks all, and appreciate everyone's participation. So have a great rest of your day, evening, night.